Hi everyone, it's Brittany from the Verb Learning Services. We are getting ready to start up the second round of the free book club for English language learners, which takes place online at your own pace in a private Facebook group. This time around, instead of choosing a chapter book, we've opted for a short story, okay, so that we can move through things a little bit more quickly. The story that we've chosen is from an amazing website called shortstoryproject.com, where you can find free short stories to practice your English at any time. And it is called The Open Window. Now, although this is a short story, it's actually quite challenging, okay? So just because it's short doesn't mean that it's not a difficult text to read. I think it's going to be a very great opportunity to improve your English, but it will take some effort to read because of a few reasons, okay? And the first one is that this story is written in older British English from the Victorian era. The person who wrote the story, his name is Saki, and that's the pen name of a British writer and playwright named Hector Hugh Munro. He lived from 1870 to 1916, so you can imagine this story was written more than 100 years ago, and the English language has changed a lot in that time period. As an example, the first line of the story says, "My aunt will be down presently, Mr. Nuttall." Today, people might say something like, "My aunt will be down soon," or "My aunt will be here in a minute." So the meaning is the same, but the language used is slightly different than how we say things today. The second reason this is a challenging but beneficial choice is that you will need to use advanced reading skills to get through this one, okay? So for example, you need to be able to make inferences. So inferences is when you get some information from the text that is not directly written on the page. The author gives us some sort of other clues that we must connect with what we already know and to understand what the author is telling us. So they do not say it directly. It's like the expression we have, reading between the lines. So for example, this is the picture that we have at the top of the short story, The Open Window. This picture is a little bit of a clue to the story, the type of story that this is and the time period that it was written in. Take a second to think, who does this funny dog remind you of? If you were thinking Sherlock Holmes, you were right. And that gives you a little bit of insight into what kind of story this is. So if you think about the Sherlock Holmes stories, there's, a little bit of mystery involved in that. Along with that second point is that there will be some cultural knowledge required to understand this story because of the time period and because it takes place in England. But it shouldn't be too much of a barrier because we have Google, okay? And we can make inferences and try to understand other parts of the sentence or the story to help us understand those things that we're not sure about, okay? But we will need to activate our prior knowledge to help us understand what's happening in the story. Here's a few examples. One line from the story says that the character is always singing, "Birdie, why do you bound?" So even for me, I didn't know what that song was, but I could make the inference that it's a song because the author is singing. But just for your listening pleasure, here's a little clip of that song. Okay, and then a second example, someone says, "Here we are, my dear," said the bearer of the white mackintosh. So you might not know what a mackintosh is, But from other clues in the story, you could probably figure out that it's a type of coat, a waterproof trench coat, okay, as you can see here. The final example, for which you will need some cultural knowledge. My husband and brothers will be home directly from shooting, as they always come in this way. So shooting, you might not know what they're talking about at first. You might be thinking guns, but you might be thinking film or who knows what. So in the Victorian era, a common hobby was to go out shooting or hunting, as you can see here in this picture. Whoops. Don't want to listen to that again. So after watching this video and previewing the short story at the link provided, let me know, what do you think? Okay, I need some participation in this Facebook group. So if you are committed to participating in the book club, you need to vote yes or no in the Facebook group by August 5th. Okay, so even if you don't want to read this story and you want us to pick something else, you need to let me know, yes or no. Okay, that way I have time to pick a different story or prepare activities for us to go ahead and get started with this one. So I look forward to hearing what you think about this story, The Open Window. Bye.